Looks like we're live. All right. Hey, welcome to the Fantasy Football News Week 12 Live Edition. I am your host, Eric, and I welcome you to the broadcast. Those of you that are subscribed may have caught a portion of a live broadcast earlier that just went absolutely off the rails from the get-go. Many things that happened and went wrong in that one, so I am starting again. So I will start here and say thank you to those of you that came over Thursday for the Thursday night football game. We had a good time, smoked 4 chickens, watched the Packers and the Titans, and watched the Packers lose that one, which was good. Then we just had a good time. The next and final Thursday night football game will be the December 15th matchup of the Seattle Seahawks and San Francisco 49ers. I will be throwing some racks of ribs on the smoker. I think I can get 4 racks of ribs on there, so that's what we will be doing. I look forward to seeing more of you over here for that one. With that, we will move on to the scores, and I will actually transition to the scoring window this time, I promise. See, there I am, way down here in the corner. Hey! This is the scoring window. Our first matchup this week is Rebel Scum versus Team 1051. And just to give myself a little pat on the back, Rebel Scum went 4-0 across all 4 leagues that I participate in. What an outstanding week for Rebel Scum. 9-2-0. First in the North Division in the Op Soup League. Wins in a match that I was projected as the underdog in originally against Team 1051, winning mostly on the strength of Joe Burrow, decent showing from my running back room, and a decent showing from Justin Herbert. Got extremely lucky in that the entirety of the rest of my roster, sparing Jerry Jeudy, was on bye, and Jerry Jeudy was injured, so showing with 0 points. Team 1051 had competing quarterbacks, Jared Goff and Daniel Jones, who managed 27 and 6 points, respectively. Not quite enough, and C-Mac, although having a decent game on Monday night in San Francisco, just not enough to pull out the win for Team 1051, as Rebel Scum wins that one. Next up for Rebel Scum, he comes up against South Division leader Generic Football Team in a clash of the Titans, hoping to put a stop to Generic Football Team's 10-game winnings streak. Team 1051 will be taking on Stars and Stripes. Our next matchup, Don't Remember Didn't Happen versus Black Ops MC. This match, 145.82 to 125.68. Don't Remember Didn't Happen pulls it out, moves to 8-3-0 in second in the South Division, keeps Black Ops MC 2-9-0, fifth in the North Division. The surprise, I think, of this week was the 33.42-point performance from Jimmy Garoppolo in an absolute killing of Arizona. The Cardinals just could not get anything going down in Mexico City against the 49ers. Decent showings from Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones. I mean, across the board, not a bad showing there. Travis Kelce with 33 points. I mean, this is why we don't have tight ends in the league, or specific tight end slots. I shouldn't say we don't have tight ends. We don't have tight end specific slots because that is a wide receiver score. And if you don't have Travis Kelce, you are at a disadvantage at the tight end slot. And so that's why we have flex positions. Over here, Justin Fields, 24.62. Not a bad showing, but he was carted off at the end of that game. Turns out he has a dislocated shoulder, and he is now day-to-day. We will see how that goes. I do roster Justin Fields into other leagues, and I am watching that closely. A fairly close matchup in this league, and we look down at the benches, and there's not a whole lot of points on anybody's bench actually left on anybody's bench this week. Not enough points on any of the losers' benches to make a difference in any of these games. So most of these folks made the best decisions they could. I mean, some people left points on the bench, but nobody left enough points on their bench to win their respective matches. So decent decision making all the way around for most of the teams, except maybe one of the teams involved in this matchup. Team Scott versus Generic Football Team, the powerhouse, the titan of the OpSoup League. Generic Football Team is now 10-1-0, first in the South Division, and has not lost a game since Week 1, where he texted me, "I hate my team," and I do not think he feels the same way now. 123.42 to 31.3, the new low score. Record low score in the OpSoup League, and we can scroll down here and easily see why that score is so low. 4 players on bye, and another player, a known scratch, scoring 0. Not a whole lot of points here on the bench, but some that could have been moved into those slots. 15.4 from Lamar, 33.96 from Patty Mahomes. I mean, his bench, his roster did enough. He could have left 90 points on the bench and still managed this one and won the $5 for the week. That was the contest, by the way, for this week, was highest scoring bench, and the winner of that matchup was actually in the last one that I just talked about. Don't remember, didn't happen. Corey won that $5 for having the highest scoring bench, and actually in that last matchup, don't remember, didn't happen. We'll be facing 12th Man Mafia next week, and Black Ops MC will be taking on Garbage Time. In this matchup, Team Scott moves on next week to face the Sandlot Turf Burns. Generic Football Team will move on to face me, Rebel Scum, in a Battle of the Titans. I think I said that before. I will keep saying it because it is true. The leaders of their respective divisions will clash. It will be amazing. Sparks will fly. Fireworks will be shot off. A winner of an ultimate champion will may be the Super Bowl of the league. Even before we get to the actual Super Bowl of the league. Our next matchup, Garbage Time versus Stars and Stripes. This matchup, another one where the underdog actually pulls out the win. Stars and Stripes gets this one on the backs of a couple of players. Jalen Hurts with 26.2. Here's your major score. Tony Pollard at 35.9 and Jacoby Brissett at 32.36. Jacoby Brissett, you say? Who's that, you say? He is the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns until Deshaun Watson, I believe, comes back this week, next week, week 14, somewhere. Can't remember. He will be coming back to face the Texans. Amazingly, the NFL wanted that matchup to happen. If we look over here, we can kind of see where things went off the rails for Garbage Time. Aaron Rodgers gets 23.08 in his Thursday night loss. Derrick Henry still manages 26 points on a decent performance in his Thursday night win. But right here is where this one went off the rails. The offensive utilities spot where Garbage Time chose not to start a quarterback because they didn't want to bench somebody or get rid of Deshaun or get rid of Tua. Deshaun, again, is currently suspended and didn't want to bench Tua and lose him to somebody else or unroster Tua. And you can only have 3 quarterbacks on your roster, so he was forced to start somebody that was not a quarterback, and it did not work out. I mean, could have put Ayuk in there as offensive. Still wouldn't have mattered. Still wouldn't have won. But, yeah, so, that hesitation. Didn't want to drop that quarterback. Could have probably picked somebody up off of the waiver wire to make up those points. Maybe. Yeah, probably. If I went and looked, I could probably find somebody. But that's not what happened. What happened was Stars and Stripes killed it and moves to second in the North Division at 7-4-0. And Garbage Time is now third in the North Division at 5-6-0. The Sandlot Turf Burns versus, let's talk about Garbage Time will be facing Black Ops MC, while Stars and Stripes faces Team 1051 in Week 12. Our final matchup here in the Ops Soup League was the Sandlot Turf Burns versus the 12-Man Mafia, and has anybody had a worse run of luck in the Ops Soup League than the Sandlot Turf Burns? I don't know. I don't know if anybody has. If you remember last year, they were repeatedly the second or third highest scoring team in the league, but also repeatedly kept facing the highest scoring team in the league each week. And so just kept racking up the L's, even though they were putting a massive amount of points on the board. And this year, I should say, have not fared much better. 135.88 to 93.92 they win this week, though. Moving to 4th in the South Division at 3-8-0, while 12th Man Mafia is 5th in the South Division, also at 3-8-0, and I believe Sandlot Turf Burns gets the tiebreaker due to this win. We see Sandlot Turf Burns riding Derek Carr, 24.78 points, and I love to see that, as Derek Carr's Raiders beat the Broncos, led by Russell Wilson, and that right now has ESPN projecting the Broncos to be giving the Seahawks the number 3 selection in the 2023 NFL Draft, and I just absolutely think it's delicious. Devontae Adams with 30 points, so that connection right there, the Derek Carr to Devontae Adams connection, worth 54.84 points by itself. Add on a 30-point performance by Andy Dalton, and then a poor performance by Josh Allen standards over here at under 15 points. And you had the recipe for Veronica to lose this one rather handily. That will move us on to, and this is where the broadcast rather went off the rails. I'm going to move over here real quick to the standings and show our standings, where we can see Rebel Scum and the generic football team lead their respective divisions, while Stars and Stripes and Don't Remember Didn't Happen are second and the only other two teams with winning records in the entirety of the league. That moves us to our projected playoff bracket, and right now we see generic football team and Rebel Scum having the first round buys, with Garbage Time, number 5 Garbage Time, projected to play number 4 Stars and Stripes, while number 3 Don't Remember Didn't Happen faces off against number 6 Team Scott Scott. And yes, Team Scott Scott is still in the playoff hunt. So we will see how the rest of this, there is still football left, folks. There is still football left. It is only week 12. We have 3 weeks of football left, so make sure that you are doing your homework, getting those lineups set, getting those rosters set to make that run. I'm going to transition real quick. I keep an awful lot of records on spreadsheets in this league, and I'm going to transition and show you one of those right now by the magic of video. Bling! There's one right now. This is an Excel spreadsheet I keep that kind of keeps track of points, wins, losses, differentials, and plus minuses, so scoring differences from each week. And so we see here that the highest differential was obviously generic football team beating Team Scott Scott by 92.12 points. The lowest was the Black Ops MC loss to Don't Remember Didn't Happen at 20.14 points. You can see here that Team 1051 dropped off 52.78 points from last week's performance, which contributed to their loss, while Sandlot Turf Burns gained 32.9 points from their performance last week, which contributed to their win. I keep track of our weekly contests here. We can see who has won their weekly contests through each week, and we see that Corey won the Week 11 contest with the highest scoring total bench. That currently puts Corey at 2 weekly contest wins, and I think he's probably favored for the highest scoring tight end contest for this week, as he does have Travis Kelce on his roster. Now, things can happen. Anybody can score more points, but we all know who the favorite probably is. I've got graphs that keep track of the points week to week. I've got player versus player records. I've got your weekly win-loss charts, and right here we can see the big one where Randy just has that L and all them W's right across the board. And that's kind of just the kind of stuff I keep track of week to week. And like I said, I have this for every week of this year, and I also have another sheet that's hidden on here for last year as well. So if you have questions about any game from this week or last week or last year or any week of any year, go ahead and ask them. I can probably provide you with some numbers. I do not keep track of rosters or who was played week to week, and ESPN does not have that information either. I am sorry. That is up to you if you want that information kept. With that being said, there is some talk that this Ops Soup League will be moving to the Sleeper app next year. We will discuss that a bit more with the league members in the future, but that does seem to be the way that the commissioner is leaning, and it can be hard to change his mind once we move into the decision-making phase. That will move us on to the Outcast League scoring. So thank you for hanging with us, Ops Soup League folks. We are moving now to the Ops Soup League. Let me transition once again. Bring the magic of video brings you to the scoreboard for the Outcast League. Look at me with these transitions. I'm getting this stuff down, folks. I'm getting it down. Oh, by the way, Ops Soup League people, if you're still hanging around, there is the chance for an appearance by one of our favorite characters here in just a little bit, so you may want to stick around for that, or come back when the broadcast is posted with the timestamps later. Okay, our first matchup here, Team Sesh versus Stars and Stripes. Stars and Stripes puts up a valiant fight against Team Sesh, who remains at just one loss in this league as they win this one 135.85 to 93.2 on the back of a 36.75 point performance from Patty Mahomes and a 24.4 point performance from Jamal Williams. Decent performances in the wide receiver room. And Tyler Bass, the place kicker from Buffalo, puts up 26 points. Hard to beat a dude that puts up 26 points in the kicker position. Some folks in this league probably could have made some changes, and we might hear about those in just a few minutes. Our next matchup, the fantasy football team versus the Ball Hawks. The Ball Hawks pull this win out 118.75 to 110.75. The Ball Hawks start Aaron Rodgers over Tua Tagovailoa, who was on a bye, so, I mean, easy to see why he would be benched. So 25.35 from Aaron Rodgers in his losing effort. 14.5 points from Harrison Butker, the Kansas City kicker. It's just fun to say Butker, isn't it? Butker. Hey, 32.5 points over here, though, from Travis Kelce. Again, I mean, we'll keep saying that guy's name until we're tired of it. Amari Cooper puts up 27.3 for the wide receiver core and helps prop up a poor performance there from Taylor Heineke, but just not quite enough to win that one for the fantasy football team as the Ball Hawks pull off that win. Oh, I didn't even pull up the schedule. Let me pull up the schedule for these guys because I like to give that to you folks, even though nobody probably pays that much attention. Week 12 matchups. So back to this one. Team Sesh in Week 12 will be taking on the Timinators, while Stars and Stripes faces the Ball Hawks. In this matchup, the fantasy football team will be taking on Mongo Mentality, while the Ball Hawks will be facing Stars and Stripes. We come now to the most important match of the week, Rebel Scum versus Randall Access Memories, as Rebel Scum completely dominates and embarrasses Randall Access Memories in a performance for the ages, as Josh Allen, the leading scorer from last year, manages only 16.5 points, while Justin Fields scores 26.15, although he did go off of the field in a cart with a dislocated shoulder. Hopefully Justin Fields is okay. Miles Sanders, a substandard performance at 5.3. Devin Singletary manages with 16.7. I get 23.3 out of Brett Maher. And again, when you get those 20-point and above performances from a kicker, it can be awful hard to beat that kind of performance. Just average performances at wide receiver and tight end there leave the Randall Access Memories feeling the burn of Rebel Scum, as again, I went 4-0 across 4 leagues this week. Rebel Scum will be facing Show Me Your Kittles in a battle of the 4-8 teams, I believe. We're 4-8? Yeah, that sounds right. In the Outcast League, while Randall Access Memories will be taking on 2021 or 2022 or whatever, last year's league champion Saints for Life. Our next matchup, Show Me Your Kittles versus Timinators, and many in the league were claiming that Timinators were tanking. So Timinators decided to say, you know what, why don't I just throw up a 153-point performance and dominate Show Me Your Kittles to dispel those rumors once and for all. Probably not once and for all if I know the people of this league, and I don't. Joe Burrow puts up a 38.25 performance. DeAndre Swift with 10.7. Najee Harris at 25.6. Devontae Adams at 29.6. Just great performances down the board, except for the Seattle defense, who was on bye, but he did not need them. Come on, you could have got rid of Jake Elliott. You could have got rid of Romeo Doubs. And picked up a defense and put even more points on the board, Timinators. You got to do better, bud. We got Daniel Jones over here with a 30-point performance, 19 from David Montgomery, 22 for George Kittle. A great performance from a tight end, but so like George Kittle, you don't know what you're going to get. 5 points this week, 22 points this week, and 5 points next week. Who knows what you're going to get out of him if he stays healthy as well. Some stuff happening on benches down here. Again, we'll talk about that momentarily as the Timinators win this one 153.05 to 120.35. Timinators will be taking on, what do we have here? Team Sesh next week, while Show Me Your Kittles faces off against Rebel Scum. Our final match of the week, Saints for Life versus Mongo Mentality. Mongo Mentality wins this one, 110.75 to Saints for Life 70.65, and I believe Mongo Mentality now leads their division. Or I shouldn't say now, has been leading and dominantly still leads their division. 110.75 to 70.65. They beat Saints for Life. Just nothing doing over here on Saints for Life sides. Kirk Cousins, absolutely abysmal performance against Dallas. 40-3, Dallas absolutely dominated the Vikings in Minnesota, where I don't know if you caught any of that, but the Vikings decided at one point during the game to showcase a porn star on their big board to everybody's laughter. But good times. Arizona's defense, 0 points, which, if you watched any of that game, is no surprise. Decent performances. Derrick Henry, 26.4. Chris Olave, 18.7. 14 points from the Dallas defense. So just enough at 110.75 for Mongo Mentality to hold out on this one. Let's move over to our standings and just take a look at those. So, yes, Mongo Mentality leading theirs at 7.4. Or 7-4. 7.4 over Randall Access Memory. So this one is actually much closer than I thought. I thought this one was much more of a blowout, but I was wrong, which rarely happens, but here has happened. And Randall Access Memories actually on a losing streak thanks to Rebel Scum. Mongo Mentality 7-4, leading. Oh, in division play 7-1. So there's your telling score right there. Team Sesh obviously walking away in their division at 10-1. The next closest isn't even a winning record, so the playoffs likely going to look an awful lot like the Division 1 teams and one Division 2 team. Rebel Scum, though, not the worst team in the league, I don't think, by a long shot. Well, not by a long shot, but I think Rebel Scum doing far better than many pundits believed they would be doing at the beginning of the season when their team was blown up. That will move us to, what's that you say? A surprise? Let's find out what it is. Super Kenobi, a wise and powerful Jedi. I'm here to let you know who was one with the Force and who was tempted by the dark side. Had Randall Access Memories owner Bennett started Derek Carr and Traylon Burks over Josh Allen and DJ Moore, he would have won his Week 11 match. Bennett was overcome by fear, which led to anger, which led to hate, which led to suffering. The path to the dark side tempted Bennett. Had Amy started Jimmy G and Tony Pollard instead of Kirk Cousins and Damian Pierce, she would have picked off Mongo mentality as easy as Bullseye and Womp Rats in T16. Saints for Life's judgment was clouded by the dark side. Surprisingly, owners in our two other leagues were guided by the Force, strengthened and healed. No moves would have made major differences. That is all of the wisdom I have for you young Padawans this week, and the Force be with you. Always. Okay, so those of you that are watching live either got a minute and 16 seconds of dead air, or you saw a video. Hopefully it was a video. I have yet to, for some reason, the preview isn't showing it live, so I don't know if it went out live properly, like it should have. But that will now move us to our final league, which is the late season league. So those of you that have stayed with us through the OpSoup and the Outcast League, I thank you. And now we will be moving on to the Orwa Late Season League that is hosted on the Sleeper app. And let's move to the league scores. We can see here, let me make sure that we're looking at things correctly. We are. And we can see that we had our first matchup of the week. Let's move back to week 11. Was Rebel Scum versus Team Rodlock 72. And in this matchup, Justin Fields comes out with 26.16 versus Patty Mahomes at 35.26. Derrick Henry had a great night, actually throwing a touchdown, plus I believe, a receiving. Do you have a receiving touchdown or just a rushing touchdown? At any rate, Derrick Henry having a great night with 30 points. Najee Harris, though, equaling that with 30.7 of his own. Rebel Scum able to pull this one out, 202.89 to 164.29. And another match where Rodlock was favored. I think the blow-up here was Kadarius Toney, just did not come out to play, putting up a half a point on one reception. So, hey, no sorry. Olave, 27. What do we got? McPherson, 17. Defense. So right here, we see some fairly high defensive scores. And I addressed this in the team chat, and I put up a poll to ask about defensive scoring and got one response, which said to leave the scoring as is. And the reason we're seeing high scores on defense is because I set bonuses for forced fumbles. I set bonuses for 3 and outs. I set bonuses for 4th down stops. And I set bonuses for quarterback hits. And most of those, I believe, I set at 1/4 of a point. So that's why we're seeing higher defensive scores than you would see in other leagues. I like giving bonuses for things that players and defensive units or whatever should be doing, right? So defenses should be trying for 3 and outs, and so they should be getting extra points for forcing those 3 and outs. Now, can we think about maybe next year lowering that to 1/10 of a point rather than 1/4 point? Sure, we can do that. That will be up to owners to decide. I am not a tyrant. I am more than happy to take input from owners, and we can make changes. We can have votes. We can do what we want with this league. It is everybody's league. It is not just my league. We will move then to the next matchup, Generic Football Team versus the Pasty Goats. And this one, Generic Football Team lost this one almost exclusively on the back of a defensive effort by the New England Patriots, which was a historically great defensive effort with 3 points allowed, 103 yards allowed, 4 sacks. They scored a TD. They had 7 3-and-outs and 6 quarterback hits, scoring 43.7 points. And if you look at the tally here, that 43 points absolutely made the difference in that matchup. And again, a poor performance. Josh Allen was projected at 30 points and only manages 15 in Detroit, despite winning that game against Cleveland. And Dalvin Cook also didn't have a great game as well. Next up, we have Team Seawish 77 versus Team Tim Frazier. And in this one, Team Seawish puts up the league-high 228.03 points to win this one, with Joe Burrow leading the way at 38 points. And let's see, only one other player. Look at here, Tony Pollard just had an absolute monster week. 1, 2, 3 up there with 9. Only 3 other players scoring less than 20, and Hopkins at only barely under 20. So you're just going to see big numbers there. And Saquon with a 6-point performance, obviously that hurts. Alvin Kamara at only 14. Lamar at 17, where he should have been at 30, or predicted at 30. So Team Tim Frazier hoping to see better numbers out of his quarterback and running back core moving forward here in the last 3 weeks, the only 3 weeks of the season. So this is the desktop interface for Sleeper, which is actually, for me, easier to use than the app interface, but the app is nice. It's slick. It's very nice to use. So I would, that's why I'm kind of partially thinking about moving to this app for the Ops Soup League. So we'll see how that goes. They do some really nice things. If you look over here in the chat, they have some nice little things they pop out for things. RB of the week, quarterback of the week. They give you some little stat stuff in the team chat every week. Lowest scorer, highest scorer, narrow victory, things like that. Worst manager. Obviously best manager, if you look right here, is X-Wing Blue, because I set my perfect possible lineup, which I almost always do. Scored the maximum possible points available on my roster, on the way to, again, 4 victories across 4 leagues that I play in. So, with that said, we will move on to So, with that, we will bid you adieu to the Week 12 edition of the Fantasy Football News. I thank you for bearing with me through the hiccups here and the false start and the restart and going off the rails there for a moment. Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football News. As always, I am Eric, and I am better than you.